Well, equalization payments could be the next big battle between the premiers and the federal government. Now, in case you didn't know about them, it's that formula by which federal tax dollars are distributed to poorer provinces to correct fiscal imbalances. Now, it results in these so-called have and have-not provinces. BC Premier David Eby is upset because Quebec was given money to help with the migrant crisis, but his province isn't getting federal help on projects including flood mitigation in the Fraser Valley. So Eby is considering joining Newfoundland and Labrador in a court challenge over federal equalization payments. So will it work? Let's bring in the front bench to discuss this. Sabrina Grover was a federal Liberal candidate in the 2021 election. She's a senior advisor at Spark Advocacy and North Star Public Affairs. Melanie Paradis is a former communications director to Aaron O'Toole. She's now the president of Texture Communications. And former Ontario NDP MPP Gurdatin Singh, he's now vice president at Crestview Strategies. He's also the brother of federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Welcome to you all on this wonderful Friday. Sabrina, you're in Calgary, and it's been a complaint of Western provinces for a long time. So does David Eby make a compelling point on this one?
Yeah, as an Albertan, we're born like straight out of the womb. You get the talking points on equalization, so it's a pretty big part of our life and our complaints here in this province. I think in Alberta, certainly that equalization myth has been debunked time and time again by economists, and I think a lot of that has to do with actually understanding the formula of how equalization works and understanding the differences between the health transfer, the social transfer, and then these broad kind of like equalization payments that exist. I think that in general, the technical side of it is that these payments are based on the revenue based in the provinces. It's also based on the population size of the provinces, specifically when it comes to the health transfer and the social transfer. So that does technically equal out across these provinces. And Alberta is constantly complaining that we give in so much to these the payments, and then we get nothing out of it. But a lot of it has to do with the tax revenue and things like that in your province as well. At the end of the day, do I think BC has a leg to stand on? Probably not. But do I think that they want to pick? Do I think that Dave Eby wants to pick a fight with Ottawa and show that he's moving on these files in advance of an election, which is going to be super tight with the Conservatives? Probably yes. And I think it's more of a political move on getting him further in that process than anything else. Certainly is going to result in a court challenge.
Yeah, Melanie, it seems like there's nothing like a good old fight over equalization payments, and there's nothing like picking a fight with the federal government just before an election. So do you think that that's really what's behind it here?
Well, I think that actually the root cause here is that the Prime Minister hasn't been meeting with the premiers in years. So December 2018 was the last time that there was a First Minister's meeting for this country. And so the premiers have been sending letters. They've been meeting with the Council of the Federation every year, and they've been trying to urge the Prime Minister to come to the table and sit down with them to talk about these important issues, and he just hasn't been doing it. In about a month, the premiers will be meeting at the Council of the Federation in Halifax, and that's going to be another opportunity for them to talk amongst themselves anyway about these challenges, and then likely present a united front once again, as they often do, in raising the issues of the day that are facing their provinces with the Prime Minister. But they always do it via like a letter and a press conference because the Prime Minister doesn't show up. This is in keeping with his approach to the pharmacare bill, where they have not consulted, the Liberal government has not consulted with any of the premiers about how that's going to roll out, even though the provinces are going to be the ones funding it and deploying it. So I think at the end of the day, this really comes down to a complete lack of engagement by the Prime Minister's office and this government with the premiers. And they could do a lot better on that front if they just got to the table with the premiers.
Gurdatin, is it as simple as that? Sit down with the premiers? Is that what the Prime Minister should be doing here? Even though, I mean, he did have that big meeting here in Ottawa when it was over health transfers and trying to hammer out deals, and a lot of those were customized to the provinces. But do you think that that's the key here? Sit down with them and a lot of this won't happen? Or is he just inviting problems by going to one of their meetings?
I think first and foremost, the Prime Minister needs to meet and connect with premiers across this country. That is incredibly important. Keep in mind the unique nature of Canada's federalism, where we have provinces and territories that have an immense amount of independence And that needs to be respected by the Prime Minister, who needs to have those proper engagements with each and every premier across this country. In addition to that, though, I think when we look at this issue forward right now, it's not just a political issue, it's an issue about fairness, I think, above anything. And I think Justin Trudeau and the Liberals right now, they can't afford to have further fights with premiers right now over issues around fairness, given their issues around polling right now and their own favorability. I think it's really incumbent to the Prime Minister to be assertive and really take a positive step in this matter and address this immediately so he can then not have to worry about having multiple fights on multiple fronts.
Yeah, and Sabrina, that meeting was February of 2023 here in Ottawa for healthcare. But does it really change things when you consider that David Eby does have the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador also in his corner?
I certainly think that by doing this joint challenge with Newfoundland, he's strengthening his case and he's making it sort of a cross-country situation as opposed to just BC fighting this fight on its own. But I think, again, right, like it doesn't come down to equalization. I think if Dave Eby has some problems on migration, on immigration, and that's specifically what he's looking to get funding for, then he should take that concern to the provinces or take that concern to Ottawa and negotiate on that. I think this larger fight over equalization mischaracterizes equalization. It mischaracterizes the transfers that the provinces are already getting and kind of misleads BC and British Columbians into thinking that they do deserve more when in fact the process has been equalized and is, currently operating fairly. And so I think that for this particular problem, he's going to have to maybe negotiate more with Mark Miller on just migration than he's going to get anything out of an equalization fight.
Melanie, is it just an easy fight to pick, though? And I want to sort of go back to that question. He's just a few months away from an election. So is this a bit of a rabbit out of the hat trick, sort of going, hey, look what I got here. Don't you want me to fight for you on this one, citizens of British Columbia?
Absolutely, but it's also a winning one. Like it's a good strategy. It's also a good strategy for internal diplomacy because one of the things that the premiers are learning, and they have learned over the past couple of years in dealing with the Trudeau government, is that Quebec has long played a much more hardball in their diplomacy with the federal government, and they get what they want out of it. Whereas the provinces that have been playing nice aren't getting anything, and so you see provinces starting to wake up, and premiers saying, "Look, Alberta's a great example, and now British Columbia, Newfoundland are saying maybe we need to start throwing a couple punches around here too if we want to get what we want for our citizens." And so they're standing up and they're demonstrating that they're going to be fighters for their province, for the people who live in their province, and push to get what they want. And I bet you that they're probably going to get some results out of it.